Hello everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another champion guide. You guys absolutely smashed the Leona guide last night. Stayed up to record a video for you all because I wanted you all to know how Leona works and how strong Leona is. For today, we're going to be taking a look at Pantheon. Now, I'm going to be taking a look at a support Pantheon build and a support Pantheon playstyle. Because I play in the bot lane mainly, so I know a bit more about the bot lane than, mid lane, top lane or jungle Pantheon. But support Pantheon can work. As you can see by the build looks a little bit different to top and mid lane Pantheon, but I'll explain to you why in a second. Yeah, it's really good at engaging, proccing the aftershock really quickly, and doing a lot of damage, being really aggressive in the lane. If you're with like a Misfortune or a Jhin or someone that can go aggressive with you, that can follow up on your point and click stun with your second ability, then you can do a lot of damage. You get a really early lead on Pantheon, which you can snowball, you can roam to the mid lane, the top lane, etc. If you haven't already, if you come from the YouTube homepage or from the recommended section, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'll be doing a lot more guides on this channel, especially with the new champions coming out, the new changes coming out as well. 2 weeks time we got patch 2.2, so hopefully we get some more champions, hopefully we get some more changes, and it's going to be a really exciting next year or so for Wild Rift, and hopefully this channel keeps growing and hopefully you guys keep enjoying the content. Enough of me talking, let's head straight into Pantheon. Now, as I said, Pantheon is a very aggressive bot lane champion. You kind of want to go for this damage playstyle champion. He's not like an Alistar, he's not like a Leona that could be a big massive tank. He's more playing aggressive, trying to get them early kills and that early advantage to try and snowball into the mid and into the late game. Now with that bearing in mind, we've gone for the Ghostblade first item. Ghostblade's really good on Pantheon, gets you that extra movement speed that you need to get into range for the second ability, or even when you're trying to ulti to another lane, you can get that Youmuu's Ghostblade proc straight away, and it's just a really good item, gives you a lot of attack damage and gives you that ability haste as well for the cooldown reduction. Now cooldown reduction is a really important stat on Pantheon because you'll be spamming your abilities a lot. Especially your first and your second ability, which I'll go into later. But yeah, really good item and definitely a core item on Pantheon. Now another core item on Pantheon is Black Cleaver. Now Black Cleaver, you can proc the 6 stacks of the armor shred pretty much straight away. Your empowered version of your second ability is a 1 for the stun, so you get 1 stack for the stun, plus you get 3 auto attacks, so that's 4 stacks straight away. So then 1 more auto attack after your empowered Q, and then empowered W, sorry, and then your Q afterwards, grants you 6 stacks straight away, which is 24% armor reduction. So you can get a lot of damage on Pantheon. And as I said, if you have a laner that can follow up, so like a Misfortune, you could do a lot of damage. But 100% you need to build Black Cleaver on Pantheon, even if you play him like mid, top, or even jungle as well. Black Cleaver is such a core item. You can get a lot of armor shred on the enemy team, and you can basically burst them straight away. And again, it gives you that little bit of extra HP, and it also gives you the more ability haste as well, which is really much needed. Now, since making a video last night for Leona, it seems that Locket has not been changed. For some reason, the new patch that came out, that was supposed to come out last night, has not come out. I've left Redemption on here for now, because as I said, I think it'll be a really good support item. But as this video is getting released, the Locket nerf has not been changed. So as you can see, the Locket is still costing 500, not 800. And it still does 140 shield. So a little bit interesting. I don't know why it hasn't changed yet, but I'll definitely build Locket. But if Locket does get nerfed as this video has been processed or as a video comes out, then you definitely need to go for Redemption instead. Again, it helps you stay alive during the fights and also help your team stay alive as well. Then for the last 3 items, it's kind of situational. If you want to stay alive and get a bit more damage, you can go for Guardian Angel, just a bit more defensive. Or if you want to be more aggressive, if you have that lead, you can go for Mortar or Minder. Again, gives you the Grievous Wound stacks, which is really easy to proc on Pantheon, again with his point and click stun on the second ability. And then Steros Gauge for the last item, just to give you that little bit more tankiness. You can go for other items as well. If you need armor, you can go like Randuin's Omen. If you need some magic resist, you can go for Adaptive Helm. But I just went for Steros Gauge just to give you a rough idea of how the build would look like and in the later stages. Now for the runes. Now the main rune for Pantheon is going to be Aftershock. Aftershock you can proc so easily with Pantheon, and it's so crucial to go Aftershock with Pantheon Support. As I said before, your second ability is a point and click stun. So you jump in on the enemy champion and then you stun them. So that will give you your aftershock proc straight away. So as you're auto attacking a few times, most of the time you want to use your second ability, auto attack once or twice, and then use your empowered Q to try and execute or deal that big massive damage. So having the aftershock, being in the middle of the ADC, will allow you to get that little bit of damage off, get a little bit of defenses off as you're trying to auto attack. So if you do get focused down a bit by the ADC, you won't take as much damage because you'll have the aftershock defenses in there, and it also do a little bit more damage if you stay within the range as well. Now I think Triumph is going to be a really good rune for Pantheon. Obviously champion takedowns restore 10% missing health, which is quite good for Pantheon. So if you do get that execution kill, it will restore a bit of HP and keep you alive a bit more. But the main part is the second part. Deal 3% more damage to enemies below 35 HP. Now, Pantheon has a really good first ability with the empowered Q and can actually execute enemy champions with his first ability. So, if they're on a certain low amount of HP, your Q will do more damage. So, this will also do extra damage if they're below 35% HP. So, you can do even more damage with Triumph. So, I think it's a really good option. You do have other options as well. Weakness could be a good call. Again, weakness works really well in correlation with aftershock. Obviously, impairing the movement of enemies makes them take more damage. So again, you have your point and click stun with your second ability. But I don't think other champions doing damage really can take into that much effect with Pantheon. I think being able to get that execution for champions and deal that extra damage when they're low on HP is really important. And as always with supports, the loyalty rune is really good. Gives you armor and magic resist, but also gives your AD armor and magic resist as well. And then Pack Hunter for the nearby movement speed and also getting your gold for your allies. Now for spells with Pantheon is a little bit different. Again, as I said before, you want to be more aggressive with Pantheon, so you want to take flash ignites. You don't want to go for this heal barrier lane. You want to go ignite. You want to be aggressive. You want to keep going in. You want to try and get them aftershock procs and try and get them early trades off, because with Pantheon, he's a very early game champion. You need to get that early lead to get that advantage. But if you don't get that early lead and if you kind of fall off, then you're kind of useless. You're not really a champion because other champions will scale much more than Pantheon. That's it for a rundown of the items, runes and spells. Now to take a look at the abilities. Now first off for Pantheon we have his passive, which is Mortal Will. After 5 attacks or abilities, Pantheon's next basic ability is Enhance. So it's nice and easy to tell. Underneath the mana bar of the champion, you can see that there is dots, and every time you use an ability, it turns into a line. And every time you go to your 5th ability, you can see that it's now enhanced. So all your spells are electrified, they're red, so it's a good indicator. And you can tell by the bar underneath being purple. So then the next ability will be enhanced, which will go through every single spell now to explain what the enhanced versions are of all of them. Now for Pantheon's first ability, we have Comet Spear. So there's 2 different versions of the Comet Spear. You have the tap cast and you have the charge cast. The tap cast is just stabs forward, deals a little bit of damage, and refunds 50% of the Comet Spear's cooldown. Or you got the charge cast, which is hurls a spear, dealing the same damage to the first enemy hit and 50% less damage to subsequent targets, so champions behind them. The most important thing to note, which works really well with Triumph, as I said earlier, is that enemies below 35% HP are critically hit for 110 physical damage, and you get bonus AD damage instead. So again, works really well with Triumph. Triumph, you get 3% extra damage. Also, if they're below 35% HP, you get that critical strike in as well. Then the Mortal Will version as well, you got deals an additional 95 physical damage and slows the enemies by 30% for 1.5 seconds, and then damage to minions are reduced. You can tell here, every time I use my first ability and I tap it, it's a nice little stab basically, so you got a nice little charge. Every time I hold the ability, you can see it goes into a big, massive range. But as you can tell, it does expire after a while if you don't actually use the spear. But bear in mind that every single time you hold the spear and you do this version of the spear, the cooldown will be doubled. So you don't really want to use it most of the time. Most of the time, you want to just tap the spell and just try and deal that little bit of damage to the enemies. You don't want to be using the long charge all the time unless you're looking for an execute or a kill onto a minion that's quite far away, so you want to stay back and be a little bit safe. Next up for Pantheon, we have his second ability, which is Shield Vault. Dash to an enemy, stunning for 1 second and dealing a little bit of physical damage. And then the Mortal Will version, which is a passive, follows up with an attack that strikes 3 times, dealing a total of 101 physical damage. Nice and easy, just a point and click spell. You just target a champion, you just tap the ability and it will stun them straight away for 1 second. And then, as you can tell from the empowered version, so what happens with the empowered version is it will consume the passive, so the maximum stacks, the 5 stacks, but then it will also attack 3 times afterwards to gain 3 extra stacks for your passive. So you only need to like auto attack or use an ability a couple of times, and then you have your empowered ability again. I'll show you what the empowered version looks like. So when you stun in, you attack a few times, you can auto attack a couple of times, and then you can use another empowered ability. So it's really nice to get a nice stun off and get that little bit of extra damage with the 3 extra auto attacks. And as I said, you can auto attack a few times if they're chain CC'd, and then use the first ability to get that nice little damage off. You can get quite a lot of damage down in a short amount of seconds. Next up, we have Pantheon's third ability, which is Aegis Assault. You block all incoming damage from a direction for 1.5 seconds, and you deal physical damage as well in that direction to nearby enemies. At the end of the cast, you slam forward to deal with a bit more extra damage. Then the Mortal Will version, which is a passive version, you block for 2.5 seconds instead, and you deal more damage over the duration. Main thing to note as well is that Pantheon is slowed by up to 50% when moving away from the blocking direction. You can recast to end it early, and the damage to minions is reduced by 50%. There's quite a lot to cover in this ability. First off, you can tap the ability normally, and as you can see, there's just a shield that comes off, and every single time you walk close, so you have to bear in mind the range. So as you can see, you can hold the ability and see the range to see how much damage you do. So it won't deal damage there, but it will do damage there, and you can see there's a little tiny thud right at the end. So you do that little bit of extra damage with the thud right at the end there as well. But it slams them down on the floor. Then you have the empowered version, which lasts longer period of time and does more damage. As you can see, the shield is now red. You'll put your shield up for more amount of time, so you block even more incoming damage, and you also deal more damage. So it's really, really nice for that. Now, one other important thing to note as well is that it says it blocks all incoming damage, and that does mean all incoming damage. You can walk to a tower. I'm going to take damage from the tower. I use my third ability, and as you can see, it blocks damage from the tower as well. As I show you again, you can walk under tower, take a tower shot, and then walk away again. So Pantheon's a really good champion of diving in onto the enemies, being able to take that tower aggro, so you'll be the one attacking first. Then you can use your third ability to block the turret damage, block the damage from the enemies as well, and get a nice easy tower dive kill. Especially as a support, it's really nice. Kind of similar to Alistar in a way. It's a really nice champion to tower dive with. Now last we got Grand Skyfall. Now Grand Skyfall gathers strength to leap high into the air, crashing down at the target area after a few seconds. You deal a little bit of magic damage to the enemies in a line. The Grand Skyfall will instantly get your passive, so you don't have to worry about, your passive stacks or anything like that. You'll instantly get your passive after you use your ultimate, and damage is decreased by up to 50% at the edges of the landing area. As you can see, it's like a semi-global ultimate. It's a really, really nice ultimate to be able to do them tower dives and everything from a far range. You can also walk from bot lane all the way to mid lane and get like a nice ultimate off there. And as you can see, I'm still standing pretty much in the lane, so you have a good bit of leeway with the Grand Skyfall. As you go down, as you use the Grand Skyfall, you can see Pantheon leaks up in the air and goes down with the big massive Skyfall. As you can see, my passive is now up again. So I can use my passive. I have no stacks on my passive now. I can use my Grand Skyfall, jump in, and then I have my passive again. So I can jump in, get the 3 basic attacks off, auto attack a few times, and then get the Q execute or the Q extra damage in there. So really nice to get your passive up straight away, get your empowered ability straight away. But as I say, good way to tower dive, good way to roam around, especially as a support. You want to roam around to try and get that early advantage. I've got some nice combos to show you guys as a support champion for Pantheon. This will even help you in top and mid lane as well. But as I said before, you always have to bear in mind your passive. Most of the time, a good way to easily get your first ability, the empowered version off, so the passive version, to get that extra damage, is to have 3 stacks on Pantheon. When you have 3 stacks, you want to jump in with your second ability, auto attack once, and then use your first ability. And as you can see, the champion is still stunned, even after I auto attack and I use my first ability. I'll show you again. So I got 3 stacks on my passive. My second ability will get another stack. My auto attack will then get another stack, and we can quickly use our first ability. So second ability, auto attack, Q. And as you can see, they're still stunned, and you can still get that easy empowered Q off. It can work with 4 stacks as well. You can use your second ability to jump in, auto attack once, Q. And as you can see, they're still stunned in place. Works really, really well in lane. Say, for example, you're against like an enchanter support, for example. And say you want to... Oh, let me just... that is not what I wanted to do. Let's just say this is your lane state, for example. Whoops. Let's say this is your lane state, for example. Using your Q to poke down a little bit. You have your 3 stacks. And now you want to engage onto the AD carry. So that's the AD carry and that's the support. The good way to do it is to flash W, auto attack Q, and then use your third ability to block any incoming damage from the support or the AD carry. And if you're on the same page as your AD carry, you can get a lot of damage off. Again, it can work the same way with 4 as well. You can use your second ability, auto attack Q, and then use your shield to block off any incoming damage as well. Again, really, really nice way to do it, and a really nice way to easily get your first ability off, your empowered version. A nice easy way to get the maximum stacks with your Black Cleaver. If again you're a support, so you're not really going to be dealing that much damage, you can use the empowered version of your second ability to get pretty much 4 stacks of your Black Cleaver straight away. Get them a few auto attacks down and your Q off, and then you'll be getting max stacks again. So you can use your third ability, your empowered version now, to last that little bit of extra time. So it's really, really good to use this as a tower dive tool. So I'll show you again. If I've got max stacks on my passive, if you're looking for a tower dive, the best way to do it is W with your empowered, auto Q, and then use your third ability to block all the tower damage, which is again for 2.5 seconds. So it's a nice, easy way to tower dive, but it's a little bit of a different combo that you can use. Now to show you all the leveling priority for a Pantheon support. When you get into lane, the first ability you want to get is your second ability. This is really good to get that early advantage. If you're pulling for the enemy, for your jungler, sorry, you can auto attack a few times in the jungle to get a few passive stacks off. You can also auto attack the minions in the lane as well to get the maximum stacks, and you can get a really, really good level to engage. Then at level 2 you want to get your second ability. Again, this works really, really well. Say you get your 3 stacks, this is when you can go in. You can use your 3 stacks, you can use the combo that I showed you earlier on and get that nice early damage off, especially if your ADC is on the same page, and you get a nice bit of poke damage off. Then from here, you want to make sure you max your first ability first. You get that nice cooldown and that nice damage off on the first ability. Then the second ability kind of depends. Do you want to survive more, or do you want to be a bit more aggressive? If you want to be a bit more aggressive, the best thing to do is level up your second ability second, so your W. And then lastly, go for your third ability. But sometimes you do want to level up your third ability more if you want to stay alive, because it gives you that nice damage reduction. That's it for my support Pantheon guide. As I said, you can use some of these tips and tricks and some of these combos in the top lane, in the mid lane as well. Pantheon is going to be, I think, very interesting in terms of support. I think it will take some time for people that have not played League of Legends before to kind of adapt to Pantheon support. You might see it played a few times in solo queue, people giving it a try. So just be careful when you're playing against Pantheon. Take a look at his stacks and make sure that you don't get hit by the insane combo that you can get. Yeah, thank you all for tuning in as always. Thank you all for all the support, and make sure you stay tuned because soon we'll be doing a guide that you've all been waiting for. So I hope to see you very soon.